You have arrived to the Plunge into Prosperity podcast, where sacred wisdom meets regenerative wealth. I'm your host, Brandi Kolosky of Sacral Capital. Now let's plunge in. Welcome back to Plunge into Prosperity. I'm Brandi Kolosky, the host, founder, and GP of Sacral Capital, Sacral Fund, and Sacral Sisters. This is episode 18, and it is also our third installment of a very special series called Sacral Sisters on the Record, where we sit down with the women who are not just listening to the conversations about your wealth, equity, and purpose. They are in the arena investing in it. And today's guest, I have to pause for a moment because this one is personal. She took the plunge with 16 other women in the first round of Sacral Sisters SPV and has gone above and beyond leading the Sacral Sisters community of ladies, offering her services and home to the sisters that desire her guidance and expertise. She is an estate planning attorney with over 22 years in law, licensed in both Washington State and Florida. She is the founder of Latterell, where she helps families protect what they have built and helps small businesses set the foundation to grow from. Proactively, not reactively. She teaches. She is a PMP, a Certified Scrum Master, a published poet, previous host of her own podcast, Laws of Abundance, and with a new podcast launching called Distillation of Joy, and a certified guide and healer in the Lineage of King Solomon through the Modern Mystery School International. She is an attorney who drafts wills and trusts by day and facilitates life activations and spiritual initiations and healing by practice. She makes estate planning approachable over her signature Paint Your Legacy event. She writes poetry inspired by her Buddhist practice. She has studied in London, Toronto, Budapest, and she lives by a philosophy that I think every single person listening needs to hear, that the revolution of humanity starts with a single individual waking up to their highest potential and living it. Angel, it is such an honor to have you on the show today.
Beautiful to be here, Brandi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Angel. And so for those that are new here, listening or jumping in again, Angel, tell them why they should continue listening to this particular episode of Plunge into Prosperity.
This particular episode? Well, I think it's going to be a great journey to just access and understand where potentialities and vision will allow us to go in the world of prosperity and joy.
Ooh, yes. And so tell us, how did you first discover your own personal definition of what true prosperity really means to you? How are you actively embodying it and stewarding that vision in your life today? What was the big, bold plunge, the gut decision, that sacral decision?
Yeah. So my definition of prosperity doesn't come from the sense of just physical resources that are at our disposal. Prosperity is an aspect of living a joyful life. And my definition of joy has come through both 30 plus years of Buddhist practice and seeking, plus adding the additional level of a deep spiritual dive into mystery school teachings and just spiritual practices as a whole and how they can actually elevate the abundance and prosperity in your life. And so that definition of joy comes from an idea of not a life without problems, not necessarily a life of actual, just everything being handed to you on a silver platter, but building through our efforts, having vision and clarity of where we're going. And as a result, getting into the flow, the true flow of purpose, the true flow of spirit and your highest self, and thus getting the wind in your sails, so to speak, that leads you with direction, because it's your choice, ultimately, the direction you choose, but having that foundation of knowing that true north is actually where you find joy in the daily practice. And by that daily practice of trying to reach your destination with purpose, that's where you actually find prosperity. Because if you're living your purpose, the universe helps you meet your needs. Like you get every breeze you need to push you forward. And then when you find that, and even before you find that, holding gratitude in your heart in every moment, acknowledging, thanking the universe for everything you have, everything that's been taken away, everything we have left, and everything that's been given, and choosing in the moment every day to go there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what a beautiful opening. I just kept I'm practicing listening. That being on a podcast, it really trains your listening, like sharpens your listening skills. because I just wanted to be like, oh yeah, and share like nuggets with you. And
Mm-hmm.
lo and behold, funny I say nuggets. I've never ever used this like old timer saying like, oh, that's a golden nugget, like when someone says something
Mm-hmm.
unique. So this is tapping into what you just shared. Crystal, she's one of our other sacral sisters. The past couple weeks, she's been talking to me about her land, and in the past couple weeks on my podcast, I've been saying, "Oh, that's a great nugget," and I would say it live. And I've never used this term ever really in my life. Well, her and I are talking about the land. I said, "Crystal, you gotta look. There's minerals. There's something there. There's some nuggets in there somewhere." Well, lo and behold, she's on her way to see if there's gold in her land. But the universe was sending me these messages, and I kept telling her, "I'm like, I'm getting these messages," and that's just a small example of that flow state where you're receiving the messages that even if it might not, the beauty of it is like you could share the message even if it's not your path, but like you are being spoken to through to assist somebody else, and be a part of that, because we're all one at the end of the day. Yes.
Yes. And ultimately, in a way, it's all of us or none of us. And how do we get to all of us? Well, that's each of us working on ourselves in such a way as that we can love the whole and love
Yeah.
ourselves wholly. And thus, if we can love ourselves wholly, we can love everyone, even if we don't necessarily condone the actions that, everybody is taking at this moment. But how are we going to get there? Well, we have to, one step at a time, one individual at a time, one community at a time. Where can we have our impact?
It's so interesting you say that because I'm constantly, people are around. Well, they'll have some little apprehensions or comments about someone or something going on. And I'm like, well, either that's a mirror to you to be seeing what you need to work on yourself, or it's not your problem, like let it go, let that go. One of my dear friends, he's a medicine man in Peru, and he does the ayahuasca thing, but he doesn't take it out of the country, and he doesn't sell it or charge people. It's only in his village, and that's it. And I picked him up to bring him to an event I got him booked to do energy healing at from the airport, and I said, "Why don't you ever bring up ayahuasca to me?" He goes, "You don't need to do it. You just need to be careful of those that are out there that have really dark stuff that they've kept inside in their subconscious, and that your big bright white light is going to suck it out, and they may attack you verbally or energetically or so forth, and just know that it's not your problem. Don't take it personal." And so sometimes we need to remember that we're just here to be that conduit for others too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And when I went to one of your book club, the Hermetic Book Club, I didn't bring that up in the beginning. Did you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so I love the Hermetic Book Club. It's the goal of the event is to bring together those who have chosen to step on the path of the lineage of King Solomon for their own daily practices and to study hermetics together, but also to bring in those who are still, I would say, hermetically or spiritually curious and
Yeah.
have a forum with a shared language to talk about it. And so we're reading a book by Dave Land, who is a sovereign of Sismus, also holds a PhD in hermetics, and where he actually breaks down hermetic philosophy, which can be it can have a lot of fancy metaphysical terms that are like, oh, how does this actually apply to my daily life? But he
Yeah.
brings it down into daily keys that you can use in life. Gratitude.
Applicable.
Yeah, what's applicable? Like, simple things like, what is a practice of gratitude? What does it really mean to have discernment in this world? And how can we, use that for our betterment? Even the concept of growth not being a natural state for humans. We really like
Yeah.
to not change and maybe stay in our comfort zone. So what are ways that we can acknowledge that and make growth our continual state? Not necessarily ever will it become our natural state, but a commitment to personal growth. And just like a commitment to exercise or any kind of routine, practice is essential. So book club brings together ladies that are interested in this topic to share and conversate and find ways to step forward. And if the particular spiritual tools that I provide are going to be useful for new folks, I'm happy to introduce them to it in the concept, because daily practices that are non-dogmatic, that help anybody get out of their comfort zone or out of a stuck place, especially.
Yes, stuck. Yes.
because we can't always get out of a stuck place alone. We need help, and a community and practices are what are going to get us that help to do so.
And the accountability of maintaining those practices that then become a natural habit, right? Where you don't even realize that you're using the tool just naturally, right? I find myself, my body will tell me right away something, and I'll be like, let's go ground, right away. Or let me just sit, close my eyes, maybe do some tapping, just simple little modalities I can go through, or just a few affirmations or words or structures of that. Yes.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to share, I like the structure of book club because you just have to show up. You don't even have to have read the book. And so if you're just curious, whereas like sometimes a meditation can feel intimidating if someone's like, oh, I don't really meditate well, or I don't know how to meditate. So I just wanted to have something that anyone could just literally show up to and feel like they could contribute and feel comfortable. So that we didn't have any limiting factors for people to decide to opt out because of some, fear, regardless of whether it's rational or not. But generally, fears aren't.
And it's in St. Augustine?
Yeah, we meet in St. Augustine. We have met consistently at Southern Grounds coffee shop, but we're going to be moving it actually into my home because I have a beautiful, at least for the summer months, backyard teaching space filled with just lovely elemental beings and. So it's just a beautiful, comforting place that people can be.
I love
helps
that.
them open up to the energies. So
I love that. Now, have you ever done it offered it virtually?
I had thought about that. It just it either has to. It's kind of all or nothing. Like to try to do some people on Zoom and some people in person. It either has to be let's have a virtual Zoom version or whatever Google Meet, etc. Google Meet version. And then let's have an in-person version because the way that the energy works in weaving is completely different. And I spend most of my time online as a lawyer. And so I like, as a break even for me, though, of the actual in-person interaction, giving people a hug and welcoming them from the heart. And yes, it's limiting to be bringing people from out there. But ultimately, the goal here is that this is something local. So that it's serving, Northeast Florida. And I have colleagues that do what I do also in other parts of Florida and other parts of the country. So they've got their own local communities and activities they can do.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure our listeners, if they started to get piqued interest, that they knew where to go. So just contact Angel if it's a different city that you're in, and she might be able to point you to the next colleague.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So you operate in two worlds, right? So that most people would never put in the same sentence: estate planning law and then healing and spiritual practices. And how do those two practices actually inform each other and how you serve your clients?
Yeah, I look at them as two sides of the same coin, which that coin being, how do I lead a joyful, abundant life? And how you do that is to take care of what you have, and that which we focus on expands. So from an estate planning perspective, I've always said I take an abundance approach to legal practices and legal services. I look at myself as more of a coach than an actual document creator. Creating the documents is my least favorite part of lawyering. It's creating possibilities and solving problems. And choosing opportunities and empowering people to see what they actually have under, with these hands, which there's simply a vision and some choice. Similarly, on the spiritual side, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just, instead of using a set of legal tools, I'm using a set of spiritual tools to be like, okay, you have a choice as far as how you build your life. You're the author of this story, but here are ways we can get out of our own way so we can see that, have the clarity of our higher self to inform us of what our purpose is, and remember, why we came here to begin with.
Yeah.
And then set in daily practices so that which we focus on expands. So we start focusing on gratitude. We start focusing on, what do I want to build for my life versus what do I want to run away from or leave behind.
That.
And so with estate planning, they go both ways. And then there's this M word, I'm going to use it, magic.
Yeah.
Which the act of magic is creating something from nothing or something from something else. And
abracadabra in Hebrew is I speak, therefore it is. Right?
Yeah,
so it's magic.
Because all spells are spoken.
Exactly.
And so that which we say, right, becomes our reality.
Yeah.
And on both sides of this coin, that is a truth, because legal tools create something out of nothing all the time. From this piece of paper comes, a contract becomes a legal entity, becomes a trust, becomes a container to hold people's abundance.
Yeah.
And currency. Similarly, in our life, again, the stories we say, but the vision, the container, i.e. that we create for ourselves, if we're holding the energy of that vision, we can create it.
Yeah.
So there's an idea of thought, plan, action. It comes from Kabbalistic thinking, but it's also just practical. You wouldn't think, you don't need a spiritual degree to figure that out.
I don't want to belittle anybody, but yes, common sense for me, but yes.
But at the same time, like carrying the idea into true thought, right? Then that becomes a plan, like on how you take those actions.
Yep.
Isn't always common sense.
No, and a lot of people, that's where they work through their fears, which are really limiting beliefs, which,
which can get really, that which is thought can become action, but actually all that which is thought becomes action.
Yes.
But if all we have is limiting beliefs, we're not creating the right actions.
Nope.
To the right story, which can get us, in the box that we don't want to be in, and we don't even realize that we built for ourselves.
Exactly.
So how do we?
So that takes me to, you call yourself a transformation specialist. So what does transformation look like inside an estate plan, as well as what we just discussed, which is, transformational of our own selves?
Yeah. So I'll use an example of a family that came to me. They were very much in fear mindset. If I'm going to say, in that case, if that gets you to estate plan, very good. Because once you're sitting in front of me, we're going to transform that mindset from pure fear to, my goodness, what are the options and opportunities I have in my life on top of mitigating the risks that keep me up at night.
Yeah.
And so this one family, came to me, and that's all they had was fears. We don't have enough money. What would happen if something happened to us and our daughter? This is actually keeping us up at night. And so we talked about, not their goals, not just their fears, in the context of opportunities, right? And I said, let's acknowledge we all die. We're mortals. Like we don't know that. But if we identify our goals and what opportunities we want to enjoy in this life, we can actually make a plan to get there. And we're going to use this as a foundation to build that plan upon.
Yes.
So let's start with a good defense and mitigate the risk. So we're going to put together a trust. We're going to put your house in it. We're going to get you good life insurance so that you feel like, yes, there's enough resources to cover if something happens to us and our daughter is left alone. We're going to have you work with a holistic advisor to help you with the math of your budget so that we can move you into an abundance mindset on a monthly and daily basis as far as how you think about your resources, because they were so stuck in how do we squeeze every last penny out. But they just didn't have the tools to know how they could take from their right or left pocket to move some things around to ease things so that they could actually add like insurance to their world, like without it being like, oh my God, it's another bill. Like in fact, they could add a type that created a wealth building structure for their next generation daughter and them. And also was the cool thing that it even surprised me out of it, but the conversations they had around who would take care of their daughter if they were not in this world. Guardianship conversations. Their daughter was older, not a full-grown teenager, but like, mid-age. And they enjoyed having those crucial conversations with potential guardians and their daughter so much that they felt like the result of it wasn't, not only did they remove the fear, right? Like, but they built more love and more connection in their family and with those individuals who would be part of this, raising their daughter if something happened to both of them. And so they started out in a place of fear, but by the end of working with me, which was a 6-month journey, they had totally shifted to an abundance mindset with their finances and assets and materials. And then they had all of this glowing gratitude about the relationships and these phenomenal relationships they had in their life. And So it was completely transformative, because literally now their outlook on how they approach life is completely different due to essentially coaching with me, not just an estate plan. Like I could have easily sent them documents and sent them on their way.
Checklists and
Yeah,
things.
and they still have a lack mentality and a fear mindset.
Also the energy that they would be not realizing it, but projecting at their estate planning could create a attraction to them to create waterfalls of not the waterfall that they wanted. It happens. It happens. I like this. I've been saying this a lot lately. A prepared mind is a confident mind, or confidence is really just being prepared. So just leading with confidence. And so, they definitely got that feeling then.
Yeah, because we gave them peace of mind and a new mindset approach to how they took on other challenges and opportunities in their life, and just the acknowledgement. Because when you shine a light on something, it can no longer hide in the dark, right? So you have to look at it, and they were willing to look at it and wanted to change. Also, it's like it's a key aspect of any transformation. You do have to have the desire to change. We can't care more than others care about a thing, and I've gotten myself in that that pickle, so to speak, a couple times with different clients, to realize I'm like, I can't make them do it. It's their life. Ultimately, it's their choice, even though I see a better way, but it's, alas.
Yes, exactly. What is that? You can't take a horse to the water? What does that
You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so, I'm like, horse, water, drinking? Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So,
No, they definitely don't. That leads me to where, we just went through the business and then applying the spirituality and mindset to it. What is a life activation for our listeners, if you want to share what that is, and what happens to someone after they receive one? And is this also correlating with, you've been a Buddhist practitioner since 1996, right?
Yeah. They're actually completely unrelated, but related in a way. It's just because everything's energy at the end of the day. We're all energy. We all have a higher self. In Buddhism, at least the particular sect of Buddhism that I practice for so many years and still hold very close to my heart, everybody has a Buddha nature. And through meditation and different practices of selflessness, you are able to access that Buddha nature better. With life activation and the tools that King Solomon and many, many years ago brought together, actually a non sequitur, but sequitur. So about 3,000 plus years ago, King Solomon brought all the healers and the practitioners, seers of the planet together. Like on the ether, he called them. Somehow they came with all their retinues, and they spent about 30 years together working on a way to access a human being's highest potential. How do we become our higher self in this physical form? And they, like a big, long clinical trial, they worked on each other, sharing each other's modalities and healing things from all over, so that they could find things that worked on the individual, no matter what their genetic background, their cultural background, their gender, et cetera. It's just what works on human. And the life activation actually comes from that series of healing modalities that came from that 30-year plus of work. There's actually like 7 different series of 7 of King Solomon healing modalities, which result into this phenomenal set of healing tools that exist within the lineage. But the life activation is the core piece. And thus, in a way, it's a life hack that, as a tool for any individual, it's going to be a benefit. But it literally is bringing light into an individual's spiritual and physical DNA, so that we can create space for expansion and access to purpose. So that when you say space for expansion, access to purpose, so how do we get a direct line to our higher self? Like, if you've been stuck and someone just says, well, meditate and figure it out, right? You're not going to be able to meditate to get unstuck. Whereas a life activation can add that surgical amount of light direct into that source code of you, so that you can light up yourself in such a way as to get up and over that challenge, that obstacle, or to start seeing opportunities that are already there that you just didn't have enough lights on in the house to see, right? I say it always helps people with what's the most immediate need in their life. the published results from life activation are things like easier to sleep, often supports people in letting go of things that aren't serving them, like types of addictions, overeating, like whatever it is that you're trying to, get enough energy to get up and over. It will help with that. But then a lot of people, it awakens gifts. It does connect them to a sense of purpose.
Yes.
I always like to work in analogies so that I think of it as like,
I love analogies.
Yeah, it's like the ignition switch on your car. Like if you're just sitting in a car, you've got the car, like our body, this life is the car, right? But you don't actually know how to turn it on. Like it just, here's the key, I'm going to turn it on. And then from there, if people are like, some people naturally it's just like, all right, I know where to go. I know what to do. Like I have enough light in my life to like go there. Others might be like, I really like this. I want to find out a way to cultivate that sense of light and being in my life every single day.
Yeah.
And that's where I say they go to driver's ed, or they get the driver's manual on how to work the car, and they come to Empower Thyself class and initiation and receive those tools so that they can cultivate this sense of purpose and empowerment in their daily life every single day.
Put a bigger engine in.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two things here. If someone's listening right now that's been putting off their estate plan, what is one thing you want them to know, or how to contact you? And then for women specifically, how would you guide women to best structure themselves to, say they came in with a lot of wealth, so they did a big house flip or real estate investment flip, and how would you suggest to them to set up a platform or their foundation, and how can they contact you?
Absolutely. So it is for all those thinking about estate plan or have never thought about estate planning. It might sound hokey, but I say it's never too early to plan because it can always be too late.
Yeah.
So the most important thing to think about is you are awake and aware right now. You are not incapacitated. You are, you can make thoughtful decisions. Yeah. So now is the best time to plan, and that your plan can always grow with you. So I acknowledge no matter where you're at, if you don't think you have enough stuff or enough relationships, you do, because there's a legal repercussion to us not planning, and there's a positive life repercussion in the best possible way to us planning now. So, seize the day while you still have many, many opportunities of growth on your plate to start planning.
Love that.
On that note, especially if you're a woman who's come into some sort of, wealth or boon or surprise, like, I have this access to a prosperous resource now, that is a perfect time to say, I'm going to invest in myself in building a foundation.
Yeah.
And choosing estate planning as the foundation to start with, because every type of other planning services builds from an estate plan. If you talk to any wealth advisor out there who knows anything about maintaining wealth, they would say, yes, an estate plan is where you start. And so I don't say that just because I'm an estate planning attorney, but that's going to give you, again, let's go back to magic. We need, or rules of creation, we need a container in order to create.
Yes.
So if this water wasn't in this glass, it'd be a puddle and it would immediately evaporate.
Yep.
Right.
Or sink into the earth. Yep.
And so same concept for your wealth. So let's get it into a container. Or
another horse will drink it all.
Yeah. Let's get it into a protected container.
Happen. Yeah. Because the taxes or something. Yeah. It'll just be like, it was here, but it's gone. Understood. Yeah, so, I will admit it. I need to get with you.
Yes, let's do your plan.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm sitting here, preaching, and I'm sitting here introducing you to other Sacral Sisters in our community, and you've been on my list, because I'm having to pick a tax and accounting firm here in Puerto Rico. There's so many on the business side, but it's also personal. So as I'm hiring them for both. So I'm going through all these motions, but you're also part of that equation, or the foundation, and so I do need to get with you. So I gotta walk my talk.
And every business and financial decision always links back and connects with your trust container, because that is the mother container of all of them, is your trust. And then from there, we have the other entities you may choose to create, the other financial decisions you create, the other types of containers that we pull from and create out there. And It's always some sort of game of nesting.
Yes.
The containers
and
within containers.
Too.
Yeah.
And protection as well. Because
there's so many options.
Once you start becoming wealthier, sadly, some people want to come after you for.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother podcast.
And I could talk for a long time about ways to protect ourselves from any type of predator.
Yes.
And ourselves.
Yes.
So
I'm going to go buy that yacht. No, you're not. Your trust said you can't.
Well, there's different means, but yes.
I know. I'm being funny. Yeah. So, Angel, before I let you go, where can people find you? Where do they, your law and your spiritual side, where can they find you?
Yeah. So the key is the spelling of my name, which if you're watching this podcast, you've got that. So you're going to find me through latterelllaw.com if you want to talk anything legal. So just reach out. We've got a contact and a phone number that's there. And you can chat with my staff and get on my calendar that way through latterelllaw.com. That's going to be the best way. And then for spiritual, reaching out direct through actually the website for the law office. They all know we're very out that I'm a metaphysical attorney. Join my newsletter and you're going to get really inspirational messages every week, not just legal advice, but every once in a while we throw a little legal advice in there. But it's mostly things like, hey, the solstice is coming down. Like, why don't you enjoy the sun? And how does that bring light into our life? And,
I don't know why I'm not subscribed. I need to subscribe. Why? I don't understand. Yeah. I'm way behind on you, Miss Angel. So Angel Latterell, metaphysical attorney, healer, poet, teacher, investor, sacral sister, the woman who led with her sacral and who just showed us why she continues to plunge. Thank you for always plunging with us, Angel. I'm Brandi Kolosky. This has been a Plunge into Prosperity Sacral Sisters on the Record episode. If this conversation moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you feel called to join the Sacral Sisters community, visit sacralcapital.com and plungeintoprosperity.com. Until next time, keep plunging and have a prosperous start to your week. Thank you again, Angel.
Thank you, Brandi.
Thanks for plunging into sacred wisdom and regenerative wealth with us. If your soul and your portfolio just got a glow up, hit subscribe on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. Share it with your crew. Tag us on social and join the movement at plungeintoprosperity.com. I am Brandi Kolosky. Catch you on the next plunge.